We are live at 5. Let's do it. What's up? What's up? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. What's up?
Happy Sunday!
Yes, yes. Sunday is always the best day.
Isn't it? It's one
Oh,
of the
man.
most, I think this is one day that I really, really chill and relax, but I also, you know.
Uh-oh.
Can
Can
you
you hear
see
me?
me? Oh, I can hear
Yeah,
you
I can hear
now.
you.
It was circling. I don't know
Oh,
what
okay.
just happened.
You said Sunday is what?
I said Sunday is always a good day to rest and then plan for your week, later on at night.
Yes, it
So, but
is.
during the day, I'm resting. But today being Mother's Day, it's been, full of joy, and we kind of just chilled actually. So,
Yes. My dad cooked a good dinner, so it was awesome. And for everyone that's on the line that's a mother, happy Mother's Day today, too.
exactly. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
And shout out to all the moms. So everyone that's tuned in, thank you so much for being on time. To be great, good to great. We're highlighting individuals in their career, talking about their trajectory, how they got there. This is meant to be live and interactive, y'all. So if you guys have any questions for Stacey, please put them in the comments or the Q&A box down there at the bottom panel, and then we will be sure to get to every one of them. So how I met Stacey was back at SIU, go Salukis.
Yes. Woo-hoo.
Shout out Carbondale. My freshman year, I joined the NAACP organization. And Stacey, were you involved prior, or were you involved that year too, in like 2010, I think it was?
So I believe that was my first year in the NAACP.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then we were both on the board together, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah. We made some things happen.
yes, yes. And that's crazy to think that that was now 10 years ago, right?
Oh my goodness. Like time just flies. Like I'm like, this is crazy. Like even when you just think back to college, you feel like it was yesterday. So like
Yes.
this is it's amazing.
It's wild. And I was just talking to Stacey before, and I was like, man, I haven't seen you since Carbondale. And that's, I mean, I graduated in 2014, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been a while, but we're not
It's
too
been a
far
minute.
from each other.
Exactly. At least now we know that, and we'll make sure to be intentional about connecting.
Exactly, exactly. So I want you to introduce yourself to the people on the live and tell them, a little background about yourself and what you do.
Okay. So, hi guys. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you, Brittany, for having me and
Of course.
bringing me on to talk about myself and my business. My name is Stacey Lynn. I am a fashion entrepreneur. I own a boutique. It's called Her Treasures Boutique. I am also a stylist. So, I'm a wardrobe stylist. I work with active, everyday women that could be entrepreneurs or also musicians or artists, and I've been in the game for about 6 years, and I'm just excited to, answer some questions and really get going.
So how did you get like started with like fashion? When you went to SIU, what was your major?
So I actually majored in kinesiology. I came out of school. I came out of school, and I was a licensed physical. I am a licensed physical therapist in the state of Illinois. So that was my main career. That was my basis for getting me started in business, pretty
Hmm.
much. I did not do like a fashion major or anything. Hey, Spence, I actually just, um, I love fashion. I've been loving it for a long time. And I always knew that I wanted to start a store. I just didn't
Hmm.
know how I was going to make that happen.
Got it, got it. And when did that come to life for you? Did you always like fashion like in high school? Was it just like a hobby that you just saw, or like were you making clothes early on? How did that start for you?
So when probably since I was little, this was our pastime. My mom, my dad, like my sister, my grandmother, that's what we did on Saturdays. You know how a lot of families, they'll do different things together. We went shopping. So this was all I knew. You know, I knew fashion. My mom raised me to always get up and get dressed, you know, like even being in SIU, you know, in college, you used to people like they'll throw on some sweats and go to class. That wasn't, that wasn't me. That wasn't my life.
No, it definitely wasn't you.
So I didn't even know. I think it took me longer to put on sweats and figure out how to make that look nice than to actually just put on clothes. And so I definitely, this was just something that I was raised doing, was taking care of myself when it comes to like clothing. And so in high school, I knew that I wanted to be a wardrobe stylist. But I told my mom, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to school for fashion design, and I'm gonna become a wardrobe stylist. And she was like, no, you're not. She was like, you're going to go to school for something practical, something that you can apply yourself, you know, and that you'll get a job in. We're not going to bank on things just happening for you. You don't know anybody in the industry. You're not about to do that. And so I was like, I listened, you know, and so I went to school and got my degree in kinesiology. I actually double majored, so I got an associate's degree in physical therapy assistant in applied science, and then I got my bachelor's in kinesiology. And so that was my basis, you know, that was where I started. But of course, like RSOs and things like that really kept me involved in the community at school. And I was a part of Vanity Fashion Fair Models.
Hey, we had a couple people from Vanity, man. Wow, tight.
Yes. So becoming a part of that, I was allowed to like be creative fashion wise. We really used any means necessary to make sure that our shows were amazing. And so I learned a lot of what I was able to do in that realm through that RSO, and just actually not having enough money to be able to just go out and buy clothes. You had to get creative and figure out how to put clothes together so that you look like something. So I would definitely say my experience at college definitely helped me to get started in this realm.
Okay. And then right when you left college, did you start a career in kinesiology, or did you go straight into like, you know, like, forget it, fashion's my calling, I'm gonna start my own boutique?
So I did. I graduated in December of 2012. And when I got home, I was working at Payless, actually. So there was a job that I would do whenever, you know, I came home, because I used to work there in the high school. So they always welcomed me back. So I started working there until I could get a position. I knew I didn't want to go in full time right away, like working as a physical therapist, but I just kept putting my stuff out there. And so I worked PRN for a company that I ended up going full time for in May of 2012. Well, May of 2013. So I went full time in May. And I would say it was about 8 months after being full time there that I started the online boutique.
And what's you said PRN?
PRN, so that's just as needed. I would come in for a couple hours out of the day, you know, and I wouldn't be obligated to be there. Basically, I would, if they say, hey, we got 5 hours and we need some help, then I would come in for those 5 hours if I was available. If I wasn't available, then I didn't come, but I was still getting paid if I did come.
Got it. So what made you start your boutique, right? And I know I also come from a background, right, where like parents are like, hey, you need to choose a career that's going to make you at least a decent amount of money so you're well off, right?
Yeah.
So what made you start your boutique after, you know, less than a year of you graduating? You're like, you know what, I need to start this. I need to do this, right? What in your mind was like, I understand, I heard you, so I did it in college, but like, I know this is like my calling.
So what really made me do it was, for those 8 months, mind you, I'm making good money at the age of 23. So I'm buying up clothes online And I mean, I was getting gifts. I mean, that's how I saw it. It was like a gift to me, even though I bought it myself. I thought that anytime I bought something online, I'm like, oh, this is a gift for myself. So I was getting boxes and boxes every day to the house, like every day. I was spending a lot of money online, but a lot of times I would be disappointed in what came. It didn't look like what I ordered. And in that, I was like, I can do this. Like, I can do this because I have a care for people, for what they want and what I think that women should look like. And so in January, I literally decided, I made it up in my mind that I'm going to open up an online store. And I did just that without promotion, without marketing. I didn't
Wow.
tell nobody. I just started.
Did you make the store yourself? Like, did you make the website yourself too?
Did everything myself. I built the
Whoa.
website myself. I actually helped my mom helped me with the name of it, the original name of it, because in 2014, 2014 when I launched, it was a different name than it is right now. And so I mean, everything was pretty much like it's go time, and I figured out how to put my website together, how to get a logo. At that time, you know, Fiverr and things like that were not in existence. So
Hmm.
I literally figured out how to get all this stuff done. And I created the website, and it was just like I went and found like different designers and different people that I could work with, and I made it happen.
Wow. And how did you find those designers? Did you like reach out like LinkedIn at the time or Facebook? Or how did you find designers and vendors to get your clothes?
I literally would Google. I would be up late at night and I would be Googling like how to start a boutique. I bought several like ebooks, and using Google was probably the main thing that I did, and that's how it started me off. And
Hmm.
then once I was in it, I was able to find more and more people. And as Instagram grew, you could also make connections that way with different designers and getting more exclusive pieces. But the basis was really Google and finding like different podcasts that talked about it. At that time, they were ebooks, and so I would read about it. And so that's kind of how I got started and how I found different vendors at that time.
Okay. Can you tell the listeners too, like what your boutique does, right? Because I know some
Yeah.
some boutiques is different, right? Because some people can buy wholesale clothes and just resell them,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So we are a wholesaler. We basically buy wholesale clothing from different designers. They can be private designers, but also some of the same designers that buy from Nordstrom. I also use some of those companies as well. In this year, I am planning to launch my own designs,
Mm.
which has been an ultimate goal for me, to become a fashion designer. So that's something that I've been doing for years, but have not had the ability or the capital to be able to produce
Hmm.
my own designs. But uh, with God's grace and mercy, I will definitely be doing that pretty soon.
That's awesome. And so also you said you started 6 years ago, right? So I think like the era of entrepreneurship, especially now in 2020, I think maybe since 2018, right? It became pretty cool once Instagram came on.
Yes.
Everybody was supporting small entrepreneurs and being like,
Yes.
oh, it's great, start your own business. But I remember back around like, yeah, was it 2014-ish, 2013, like starting off as an entrepreneur was tough. We didn't have access to
Yeah.
all these resources, right? Like we didn't,
Exactly.
people were thinking about how long you were in business, not that you just started. They were like, oh, you just started. Oh, just wait,
Yeah,
right?
like
Like,
is she gonna really make it? Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
So how was that for you?
it was difficult actually. Because it was almost like you were convincing people to buy from you that you were serious or that you had a great product. You know, it was almost like they were watching you, right? They were watching you every day. They would like your stuff, but they weren't necessarily convinced that you knew what you were
Mm.
talking about. And that time, a lot of people were like, I'm going to a big box store. I'm not sure about what she's doing or how she's doing this. And they weren't willing to give that a chance, right? So a lot of my support came from people that I didn't know at all. You know,
Wow.
a lot of my support came from and I had, of course, some friends that supported as well. But when you talk about really growing a business, it has to be beyond even just the friends, right? It has to
Mm-hmm.
be other people that's able to see you, and see what you're doing, and really believe in it. And so
Mm-hmm.
in 2014, it was a lot of groundwork, a lot of grassroots. It was a lot of getting in your face. Because at that time, Instagram was there and I used Instagram, but it was not as popular as it is today. And so I was using pop-up shops and any opportunities, vending events. And I went to every fashion show and I passed out my cards, and I really took more of a grassroots approach to share my business.
Wow. And you did this all on your own?
Well, yes, with the help of my family. I could never take all the credit, because they definitely were like very helpful. My friends as well, they came through anytime that I needed somebody additional
Mm-hmm.
to help me run a booth, or my family was right there, my friends were right there, and I couldn't replace them. I definitely couldn't have done it without them.
And would you say that you learned a lot of like your business knowledge, right? So right when you start selling things, right, and especially with wholesaling and talking to vendors, you got to have a level of just like finance,
Yeah,
entrepreneurship
business
knowledge.
acumen. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
certainly, certainly.
Did you learn that through Google, or is that kind of at college too, or like where did you pick that up?
I would say that so in 2014, because I knew nothing about business, I took a lot of classes. I would go and learn every weekend. I mean, you could ask my mom. I was always somewhere trying to figure out what to do and how to do it and how to network. Now you'll see a lot of networking events. You'll see a lot of people out trying to bring people together. But at that time, it wasn't a lot of networking events. It wasn't a lot of women empowerment events, right? So it was more or less like you had to do the work on your own. So
Mm-hmm.
it was reading books, like learning to love, and I love to read anyway. So that didn't stop me. You know what I mean? Like I learned a lot through a book, but some stuff you have to learn hands on. And I feel like a lot of my knowledge in business came from actually just going through a lot of mistakes. um, and one of my friends, I think she says that it's basically you pay to make a mistake so that you can learn from that mistake. And I
Wow.
definitely did that, a lot.
Wow. And did you have any like mentors along the way that kind of helped you too? No?
No,
Wow.
I mean, and in the fashion industry especially, um, people do not want to see somebody else come along, and this was at that time, because right now is a lot different,
Mm-hmm.
but at that time people were afraid that what you had, they were going to lose what they had if they was to help you out. And
Mm-hmm.
so at that time I did a lot of stuff on my own. I couldn't, it wasn't like a inbox somebody and say, hey, how did you do blah blah blah, or can I take you to lunch so that you can teach me how to do this and that. um, and so as I started to learn on my own, I said that I wish I had somebody like me,
Mm-hmm.
so at this point I am that somebody that I wish I had. When people inbox me and they're asking me questions about starting a business, I want people to be successful, so I'm constantly trying to help in the best way that I can.
Oh, so you are a mentor now. You mentor people who want to start their own boutiques.
Yes,
Oh my gosh. And so I think
exactly.
one of the biggest things too, I think that most people have in business or having a boutique or anything is capital, right? Like start how much
Yes.
money do I need to start a boutique, right? If I want a wholesaler, if I want to create my clothes, or I want just to be a designer for celebrities, how much capital do I need? So when you started, how much capital, you don't have to say specifically how much if you don't want to, but like around how much did you think you needed and how much
Uh-huh.
around did like you start off with?
So to be honest with you, I had no idea what to do. Like, and so when I started, I didn't even set aside money, because at this point, I know that I'm getting a check every 2 weeks, right? And it's a pretty big check, so I got enough money to do whatever it is that I need to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna set aside $2,000 so that I can make sure that I have this, that, and the other. And with fashion, it is open. Like, it's not like you need a certain amount of money. Not like you need a certain amount of money to do it. So that's the good thing, is that you can start off small, and that's a good thing. So you don't have to have a certain amount of money to start when you go to wholesaling, because it's going to be based off of what you think you're going to put into that work, if that makes sense. So you don't have to go in and say, oh, I'm going to take $2,000, but I recommend you setting a basis for how much you're going to spend, right? And make it make sense. Like, don't just go out and put in $1,000 and you don't have anybody following you. I mentioned this a while ago. Like, I literally started without marketing, right? That was stupid. I started without marketing. So nobody was ready for when I dropped, right? So I tell people now, like, make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever business this is, that people are sitting there and ready for you to drop whatever it is that you got. I literally put something out, like pictures. I bought all these clothes. I put pictures out, and nobody was sitting there waiting for me. So guess what? Those clothes sat there because nobody was waiting for me. And so that's when I started to have to get into the grassroots. Like, I got these clothes now. I need to make sure that I get it out there. So I would say, if somebody was going into fashion, with the logos, the cost of logos, the cost of a website, figure out how to do it yourself so you can save yourself some money, right? If you can do it yourself, different platforms allow you to create it pretty easily. You can use the Square website. You can use Shopify. You can use, when I first launched, I used web.com. At that time, it just wasn't as flexible. And I slowly, when I rebranded, I actually began to use Shopify. So that's one of the best platforms, and one I recommend for anybody that is in retail or selling something, because they also give you different classes and different podcasts and different articles so that you can be encouraged as you continue to move into this entrepreneurship.
Got it. And
I
so
hope
how
I answered
much?
your question.
No, you did. You did. You did. And I think that's what most people want to know, right? I feel like when people give answers, be like, oh, you need $5,000, right? It's like, okay, I got 5 grand, so now what do I do, right? It's
Exactly.
like, no, it's
Exactly.
about what you do with that money, right? And what you're putting it towards. And you were saying it, right? Like, yes, you do need a website. You need to have the skills. You need to create everything. But if you don't have marketing, you don't have an audience.
You don't have an audience, there's no point of putting all this money forward, right? And so I
Right.
think a lot of people put marketing on a back burner, and they want to make sure their website looks good. They want to make, and I'm an advocate for people to not be perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the person that be like, oh, it has to be perfect, because perfection doesn't allow growth, right? So if it's perfect now, where do you go? Where do you go from there? And I think a lot of people don't start their business because they're like, it's not perfect. You can't expect things to be started, then you can start talking about perfection. But if that's the thing that's stopping you from starting, you can't be perfect. You get what I'm saying? The best thing that I did was start.
Yeah.
Whether I started the wrong way or not, I can correct everything going forward, but I started. And that was the power behind it, is that I got started.
Yo, perfection doesn't allow growth. Gems dropped.
Seriously.
And so, do you have a brick and mortar? Do you sell online? What's that journey like for you?
So currently I am online only. I had a brick and mortar in 2016, and it was a nice time, but it wasn't for me. But it was something that I always dreamed of, and I feel like that was one of those things that God was like, I know the desires of your heart, so I'm gonna give this to you and give you this opportunity, but you're gonna slowly see that this ain't really what you want. So in 2016, I opened up, it was a small store in Palos Hills. And during the time that I was there, it was great, but it definitely was not the experience that I wanted. It wasn't, I don't like waiting for people to come, if that makes sense. I don't like, In a store, you're literally sitting there for hours and you can get 2 or 3 people to come by. They may or may not buy. And I felt like I was wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. And so the minute that I was able to get out of that, we moved on. And I focused more on my online sales. A lot of times I had the brick and mortar, people would order online and then they'd be like, oh, I'm going to pick it up in the store. And they'll say, oh, I'm going to come at 7. They're not there. They don't come to, it's just like
Mm-hmm.
I'm wasting money and time with overhead and everything when I could literally get this all done online, especially with the way that our economy is going. I'm so glad that I had that experience, but I'm glad that it's not something that I desire to continue to do.
If you guys have questions too, by the way, feel free to put them in the comments or in the box and then we'll ask them. But pretty much you pivoted way earlier before quarantine. So once
Yeah.
quarantine hit, you were like, I'm good. I don't have to pay rent. At least out of spot.
Seriously, it's always been a focus for me, and I think that any business that you have needs to have an ability to operate online. I also provide service, right? As a wardrobe stylist, I'm a service provider, so I
Mm-hmm.
understand people who are sitting here and they're like, "Wow, I no longer can do hair, I no longer can uh, uh, do makeup, I no longer can, so." But it's always essential that you have something, a product, a service that's related to what you're doing to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you continue to sustain in all areas, And so the products, of course, I'm not affected by that because I had a product, but my services also had a virtual styling option. So I've always been able to virtually style people. Obviously there's not as many events going on, so not many people
Mm-hmm.
need styling for that, but some people everyday life, they want to upgrade their wardrobe. I do that virtually. They want to do clean out their closet. I do that virtually. So it's just important for everybody to kind of pivot during this time to make sure that they see the blessing that's within this time of resting, I guess.
And how would that virtual process look like? Is that like a consultation that you do with people?
So we do a consultation. It's a Zoom call that I usually do it with them. And basically, I've already kind of set out some of the groundwork through basically getting them to work out what they really want to even start looking at. Like, they're going to go in, and it's a lot of work on them. So they have to be committed to that process, right? So if you hire me for a closet edit, you got to understand that this like a 2-hour to 4-hour process. So, and that's all on the computer. So to kind of cut down some of that, we're going to go in and we're going to do a lot of work via like get rid of anything that you ain't worn in the last 3 years. Get rid of that.
Mm.
Anything that don't excite you anymore, get rid of that. And we're not even going to touch on those things. You know what I mean? Like those things are going to the garbage, or we're going to send it to the shelter. So it's just some of the stuff we get rid of that. So we're not wasting time on it. And then
Mm-hmm.
we go through and we have to literally try on everything. And so we select a certain number of items to do. And we begin to just kind of work through it and what that item needs in order for it to look good on you, or if it'll ever look good on you. You know what I mean? May not.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's a process, man. I'm trying to think about my own closet, and I'm like, man, I have
it
so
is.
many things in there, and that's true. A lot of people don't wear things that they've wore for a while, or even thinking about like the quality of their clothes, right? Everybody's just like, oh, I'll buy
Exactly.
this, buy this, buy this, whatever, and then
And
you
they
feel
keep
like,
adding it.
mm-hmm. And then you
They
feel like you
keep
got
adding
nothing to wear.
And that's a lot of my clients. They're like, oh, I gotta go here and I don't have anything to wear. You got a closet full of clothes. Like, no, we're not gonna do this. Like, and so it's a blessing to be able to kind of like be creative in a sense of recreating what you've already worn, and especially in our society today, everybody wears it on Instagram, then they don't want to wear it again, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just not practical. You know what I mean? So learning to create different looks from one piece is also something that I always try to get my customers to do and my clients to do.
Who's your like inspiration? Like whether it could be like a retailer out right now or like
Mhm.
just stylists. in general?
Oh, that is a good question. I have a lot of inspiration, but a lot of my inspiration comes from like the 1920s. So I like Chanel. Chanel is like one of my favorite brands. I feel like they're classic. I feel like they've really weathered the time. Like it didn't matter where when they started to where we are right now, people still see the value in them. And so I love that, you know, and so I would have to say that that is one of my inspirations. I would say styling wise, it's a lot of great stylists out here. And I would hate to like just name a few and miss somebody that has been an inspiration. But there is, of course, Jay Bolin. I love his style. I love the way he works. I think the way his mind brings old prints together, I love it. I would say it's another guy. He's more or less. I I would say I look at a lot of the male stylists and I see how they work with the women's bodies, and I think that they just have this eye that's maybe a little bit different than ours for ours, you know, for ourselves, and it's crazy. So, but yeah, I would say definitely Jay Bolin. There is a lot of Instagram names that I'm thinking of, and I cannot think of their real names. But there are so many stylists. There's a woman stylist. Her name is BB Jones. She's great. And she's somebody that'll take you under your wing if you're trying to grow in the styling realm. So she's a great inspiration as well. But I would say for the most part, my inspiration comes from nature. It comes from God for sure. I kind of spend a lot of time. I don't look at trends. I kind of create my own, if that makes sense. So I don't care what's really in. I'm more or less like, I believe that you can rock whatever you want to rock. I believe that you can literally look good in anything as long as you're confident enough to carry it. So
I love that. I'm just taking notes over here, by the way.
she's like, I got to get all these gems.
Yes, yes. So what's when you shop at Her Treasures Boutique, what will you find, right? What is your type of type of clothes do you have?
So a lot of quality pieces, a lot of classy pieces. We find a lot of transitional pieces. So I do a lot of work with like jumpsuits and sets. I love prints. I love quality materials. So my focus is more or less longevity and not trendy. And I kind of mix and match. So it's a trendy look. It looks great, but it can last. It's timeless. So most of my pieces, you'll be able to, in 5 years, still wear it because it still, you know, looks good. It's still, it's current, and nobody will feel like, oh my God, that's old. You know, and so that's really my focus. I love bold prints. I love suits. So I work with a lot of women, and our range is real. Yes, longevity, exactly. I work with women that are a bit older than. So when I started my boutique, I was 23, but the average person that was buying from me was like 45. So it was like, yeah. So I mean, unless you have a very mature sense, and of course, I had some below that as well. I had some 20 somethings, you know, but it was dependent on the piece. You know what I mean? Like I could mix and match. And so I enjoyed that because I had a very mature eye, the way that I saw things. It wasn't necessarily your club attire. You know what I mean? So some people they're not going to wear the pieces that you get from me to the club.
I feel like you've always been like that though, Stacey. I feel like even in college, you still had that like mature eye for clothes.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I was wearing ruffles before like everybody was like really into it. Like
Yep.
I was into the ruffles, balloon sleeves, and but I've always been like a 1920s and a 1960s blend for sure.
Okay.
So very classic.
Have you now in 2020? Do you know any like programs or opportunities that people can do if they want to own their own boutique or get into like styling?
Yes. So one of my close friends, if you guys are looking to really start your boutique and make it successful on the way out, she has an amazing breakout fashionista program. And you can follow her at Jasmine Browdry, JASMENE, and you'll find her program right in the link. It's a great program for anybody that needs to know whether you're a beginner or already in business and not making money. She'll be able to really help you along the way. And she's an amazing coach and just has a great background in fashion and retail. And so I recommend anybody to that program if you're really looking to get serious about your boutique business.
Is she in Chicago or would she be online?
So I'm sorry, y'all. I just hit, fix that. Okay, am I cricket?
No, you're straight.
Okay. So she
Literally and figuratively.
You a mess. But no, she's based out of Atlanta. But everything that she does is an online program. So wherever you are, she can definitely help you out.
Awesome. Awesome. Have you ever, and I don't know if you want to get too deep into this, like what type of failures have you had during your boutique? I know early on you were talking about marketing, right? But have
Yeah.
there been any huge mistakes or failures that you've made where you were like, oh my God, please don't, if you're in business, please don't ever do this?
Yeah. Plenty.
Can you give us one or a few
So
examples?
yeah. So when I first started, I didn't know how to calculate profit, right? I didn't know finances, period. Like really that just was not my realm. I was just spending money. And I would say that I spent at least $10,000 in that first year or so just buying things and not really testing the market, not really knowing who I was targeting. And so as I was buying stuff that I thought, oh, this would be cute. Oh, this store had this, so I'm gonna get this, and it sold well there. And because I wasn't specific about the type of person that I was buying for, or that I wanted to come to my boutique, a lot of money was spent on things that did not necessarily fit my store. So I would say that the biggest mistake and failure that I had was really not knowing how to manage my finances. I probably spent over $10,000 in clothing and never really realized that I wasn't making a profit. So I was selling clothes, but I wasn't making a profit because it wasn't any calculation that I used to really figure out how to set my prices. And so it was in probably my third year where I was really like, okay, something's got to give. Like, this isn't making sense. I'm selling clothes, but the bank account don't look right.
Right.
What's going on? And so I started to become more strategic in my buying. I started to become more strategic with my budgeting. It wasn't, I think a lot of people look at budget like, oh, that's because you don't have enough money. And that's the way I looked at it at first, because I'm like, oh, I got it. I can just, but when I left my job, things started to change. Like now I got to look at things differently. And I'm starting to see that I'm not making enough money
Right.
to be talking about pay for this and pay for the car note and
Just
do
letting
this.
money come in and out and not checking where it's going.
Exactly. And so when that second form of income don't come in, you started to realize like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Things aren't adding up. And so I think my biggest failure was to start without counsel when it came to finances. So with that, I also then had a lot of tax issues, right? I was backed up for 3 years on state taxes. And so they threatened to take my business license away because I had no idea that I was supposed to be paying a state tax
Mm-hmm.
in a different way than the yearly taxes. I was supposed to be paying quarterly sales tax, and I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea. And because I didn't consult anybody, I ended
Hint,
up
hint.
going to court, trying to plead my case at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so ended up paying the state like $5,000 for back
Wow.
taxes. Yeah. So it's a lot of mistakes and a lot of failures that I made, but I won't ever make them again. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll make sure to always, share that with people, not be ashamed of it, because if you don't know, if you don't know about it, you can't be held accountable. Now, once you know
Right.
about it and you're not doing it, that's different.
Mm-hmm. Is that what Jasmine goes through too? Is that in her How to Start a Boutique too? She talks about like sales and use tax.
So her program kind of covers just everything that you need to really be successful as a business owner. I did not take her program personally as far as like the in-depth part of it, but
Mm-hmm.
I have watched a lot of her people go through the program and come out very successful in a short amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some of hers, like I did a brief program with her, and just the amount of knowledge that she has. I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge for any person going into selling any product. It don't have to necessarily be a boutique, but any product, because of her background, her corporate background, in like fashion merchandising and buying. So she just knows a lot when it comes to finances and breaking things down. So she definitely will go through some of those in the program. But this program is definitely more in depth than what I took with her.
Okay. And Spencer asked a question. He said, Was there ever a point when you really just thought about throwing the towel in? If so, what prevented you from doing so? That's a good question.
That's a great question. Yeah, many times in that, and I don't say that as in like that was the past. It's still something that you can ponder, because entrepreneurship is literally like that. I don't know if you saw the meme where it said that 9 to 5 is like this, and then the entrepreneur is like this, and their
Like,
mind
right.
is like this, and they just going everywhere. Because sometimes when things aren't working out the way that you um, projected them to, you feel like maybe this isn't the right path for me.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that held me here and keeps me going is really my faith in God, knowing that He started this in me and that He's going to finish it. Knowing that I'm going to come out on top and I'm going to accomplish everything that He set out for me to do. I definitely say that the only reason why I continue is because I believe in the dream that I had. I don't believe that it was by chance or by accident, but I know that this comes with some trials and some tribulations, and I know no good thing comes by easily. So I enjoy fashion. I enjoy owning a boutique. I enjoy making women feel good. A lot of my customers also keep me going, which is because the business is not just about business, right? You begin to build personal relationships with people, and they keep you going. They really tell you how much, because sometimes you can be blinded by what's happening in your life. You can be blinded, and because of that, I could get in my head enough to be like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And when the boutique didn't necessarily at that time work out, having that brick and mortar, I questioned whether or not this was something that I should continue to do. Maybe I should just give up. And I would get people that come by and say, you know what, I love what you're doing. Keep going. It's so great to see you pushing, and knowing that greater is a reward at the end than the beginning. So I'm always referring back to the Bible. I'm always referring back to the dream that I had in the beginning of what this will be. And so I want to see that. I don't want to regret when I get older. Like, I wonder if I would have kept going, if it would have worked out, or if it would have turned out different. So I don't want to have
Mm-hmm.
any regret. I want to know that I lived my life. I did what I was supposed to do, and it was worth it.
Mm-hmm. What is your ultimate goal with your boutique?
So my ultimate goal is to actually have a fashion production company. And so my desire is to have a one-stop shop. I want to be a household name. My desire is to become a fashion designer, much like Chanel, Versace, and that's my ultimate goal. But for me, it's really to encourage more people to get into small business and get into the world of fashion or arts and utilize the gifts that you have, you know, and it's a lot of times we don't realize what we have is a gift. And so I want to be able to take a hold of that girl that is drawing, but is unable to sew, but able to create ideas. And I want to take her and give her the opportunity to be the designer that she wants to be. I feel like there's not enough, one, Black owned fashion production companies here in the United States that are giving opportunities to our community. And that's kind of what I want to do, is be able to give opportunity to the arts.
I love that, and especially for young kids too, right? Who they know they like it. Remember, like you're like, man, I like this,
Yeah,
but like, how can I make this real, right? And if you had a mentor and somebody's like Stacey, like, you don't need to do that. Just do X, Y, and Z and put this together, and I will help you be successful.
exactly. Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you want to be a blessing to others, right? And just
Yeah.
also tell people, hey, don't make these mistakes.
Exactly.
Here's here's
Here's
the
the
blueprint.
manual of mistakes that I made that you don't need to make. Yeah, pretty much. That's
Do
my
you have
desire.
people around you now that like have boutiques too, or like friends who are in the same industry as you?
Yes, I have many. Jasmine, she has her own boutique, and she started after me, and we kind of connected at a networking event, and she was one of the main people that I started with to really collaborate. So we actually did a collaboration for Yorktown, not Yorktown. I did Yorktown, but the Water Tower. We collabed together. Both our boutiques were there during the Christmas season last year.
You mean the
And that
Water Tower Place in
Water
Chicago?
Tower place. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And so we did we had our pop up there for a week at the Water Tower, and we collaborated on that. And so I have a lot of business friends, and they may not necessarily be a boutique, but I do have other friends in the boutique industry also that I can call on now to say, hey girl, what you do on this? Or if they have a piece that I didn't have, like being able to utilize them in order to style clients. I'm really big on making sure that our money stays within our community, and making sure that it circulates. You know, the black dollar usually can't last 7 seconds out in our community. And so I want to make it last longer. And so my goal is to make as much for other people as well as myself, to continue to grow and feed their dreams, because I know how hard it is to be in business. I know what it looks like to go a day without sales. When I first started, I went 3 months without a sale. So it's
Wow.
well, I had one sale. That was one of my best friends. She purchased from me, but it was a long time without sales. So I know what that feels like. I know what that looks like. And I refuse to allow other people to give up. I'm sure other people would have wanted to if they would have had that same story. But it's just in me to really spread love and spread support across our community as well. There's no reason why we spend the most money and our businesses are the ones that fail. There's no reason. And so in no way, shape, or form am I going to be able to have something to do with that and not change it. Yeah.
I love that. Make that call to action, Stacey.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, support small Black owned businesses, not just because we don't get the most capital, or because the banks won't, give us loans, because that's not for every business. Some Black businesses receive all of that. Support it, because at the end of the day, it matters in our community whether or not we exist or not, if that makes sense. Meaning, if the Chinese dollar can circulate 7 years before ever stepping outside there's no reason why ours can't last 3 seconds. Ours, that doesn't make sense, but we're quick to go the extra mile, spend the extra bit of money so that Black-owned business can have the same success as somebody else. Don't look to what they spending it on or what they doing or why it's more expensive, because there's a reason why it's more expensive. It's a reason why things don't look the same when you go into a Black business and somebody else's business. And so let's change that. Let's really change that.
What advice would you give to new business owners to help them become successful?
My biggest advice is to keep going, and to never give up. Remember why you started. And if you started for money, you started for the wrong reason. So always remember the reason why you're opening up the business and why it's so important to you. I think that if you don't keep going, you're going to regret one day not knowing what's going to happen. So don't give up. Instead, make another way.
And then I like to round out these lives by asking who is being great in your life, right? So who, and it's not somebody like a Beyonce or an Obama, someone you don't know, someone that you know personally who's like motivating you, pushing you, or inspiring you, or it could be someone not even in your field, right? It could be like one of your friends, you're like, man, they're just doing awesome. But who is that to you? And it's not limited to one person, but just a few people that are on the top of your head right now.
I would say my biggest influence or the biggest thing that may be pushing me, I would have to say one, of course, it would be God. I would say that that's my biggest influence of why I continue and why I push. But my family, I want to break chains of generational curses, and I want to bring in generational wealth. And so in order to do that, I have to push past and continue to move forward. So I would say my biggest inspiration at this time would be, I would have to say my parents. I've seen them work very hard. I've seen them provide a life for me and constantly support me, even when I make mistakes, even when I don't listen, even when I'm wasting money, spending something, they're still there. And they're constantly clapping for me. And I want to make them proud. So I would have to say that's my inspiration, is my parents.
Love that. And so we have 8 minutes left. I know you wanted to do a type of giveaway, right?
Yes.
So for those still on the line, you're about to get something special. So Stacey, how do you want to do this giveaway?
Okay, so I'm thinking, I like the option of like the spin the wheel. So what I would like is that if you are even interested in receiving, I want you to answer a question. What year did I start my business?
Ooh.
That means you had to be listening.
Let's see.
I have 2 gift cards to give away, and you can get something for your mother. You can get something for yourself, because I see it's a lot of men on the line.
Let me put this in there. What year?
And then we'll just drop everybody's name in the bucket to select as well if nobody can answer that question. But I know somebody was listening.
Let's see. Boom. And then let me pin this. Yeah, the hard thing about these lives is some people listen and then don't like to interact. They just keep it up while they're,
Yeah, they like,
chilling.
I'm listening, but that's okay. Maybe we just drop some names in there. We'll figure out who can win based off of that. But if you have the answer, for sure, share it. I don't know if mine is moving, but.
So we got Spencer. Spencer put 2015 with the eyes.
Try again. Okay. How many years have I been in business? That should be.
Going to.
Yeah.
Hey, Grandma. I'm at my grandma's house right now in St. Louis.
Oh, so you down in St. Louis?
Yeah, in St. Louis. Allegra said 2017. No, no. Keep going, y'all. Keep going.
If you find out how many years I've been in business, then you should get the year. I'll
Spencer
give you a
said 3.
hint. I graduated in 2012. I don't know
We
why I
got
don't
4.
have.
We got 6. We got 4, 6, 5,
Okay, so who
3.
said 6?
My grandma actually. She on the live too.
Really? Okay,
Grandma on the live.
grandma get a gift card.
Grandma get a gift card?
Grandma get a gift card because that's how many
Oh,
years. So
that's
grandma got a
awesome.
$20 gift card.
Grandma, you want a $20 gift card?
Grandma was listening. See, nobody else was listening. So now that gave away what year I started my business.
Love it. Love it.
So we can make sure we get grandma information. I got another gift card for somebody who.
Let's do it.
Who can. This is good. Okay, this is difficult. Oh, what's a good one, Brittany? We talked about so much.
We did.
Did I have the same name? Was my business the same name when I started as it is right now?
So that's a yes or no, y'all.
Yes or no? That's it.
Yep. Yep, a yes or no question.
I don't know why my comments ain't moving. I can't see you.
Yeah, you can. Come over here. Spencer said nope. You want to say thank you?
It's a grandma. Thank you.
Yes. No, thank you.
Much
You
success to you.
Thank you
She
so
said thank
much.
you.
I
Much success to
appreciate
you.
it.
She said,
I appreciate it so much. Okay, Spencer, you got it. You got it. Now you got to buy something real nice for the special lady.
Oh, I love it.
Spencer, we got to make sure we get your email. I'm just writing down who won.
Okay, so yeah, Spencer, DM Stacey. I tagged her thing at the bottom, so you can stay connected. And for anybody who wants to also stay connected, Stacey, how can they keep in touch with you?
Of course. So follow me, my personal journey. You can follow me at Styles by Stacey Lynn. That's Stacey with an E. And if you would like to follow the boutique, which I encourage you to do so, it's at Her Treasures Boutique. And then you can follow my styling journey at Stacey Lynn Style Studio. But if you follow my personal page, you will see all of those listed in my bio. So feel no pressure to try to remember any of that. Just follow Styles by Stacey Lynn, and then you can be directed to my other pages.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Stacey, dropping your knowledge, being open, transparent, talking about your journey. Even get to see your beautiful face. I really appreciate it.
I haven't seen you in forever. And it's
know.
Good to see that you haven't changed. You've always been so down to earth, so chill, and just so smart. So I'm excited that you allow this platform to give other people the opportunity to share their stories and what they've been through and what they're doing, So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share that with your audience. And thank you guys for being so engaged and coming in and talking with us.
And I'm going to save this, and I usually add it to YouTube, and then I'll text you the link. So if you want to share it with somebody, I know you'll be a blessing to so many people. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Brittany.
All right. Have a great Mother's Day, you guys.
Have a good Mother's Day.
All right. Bye-bye.